Simplify. Algebraic expressions. Throw forward to paper. Algebraic. Two really weird words that you haven't seen before. Algebraic means there's something different besides a number that you're throwing in there. And it's a letter. If you look at example 1, it just looks like a mess. It looks really complicated. It looks like, why is the X thrown in there? Why is there a Z in there? I'm only used to numbers. You're starting out at the foundational levels of algebra. When you head into high school, next year especially, you're going to see a ton of equations that have an A, an X, a Y, a B, a lot of other stuff. Hendrix talking. We need to be comfortable with them, but it's okay if you're looking at this and you're starting to feel like, man, I really don't get what's going on. We'll clarify that after the first few examples. John? Yeah, 6th grade has like a little introduction to solving equations. If you guys remember that, that's a great start. We're going to go into more detail in 7th grade. Then 8th grade, over half your life will revolve around equations, solving for X, and that type of stuff. If you have a friend who's an 8th grader, or you have a friend who's in pre-algebra from 7th grade, you'll probably notice that their homework is just like tons of X's, tons of Y's, and a lot of solving. Yes. Josiah.
But the only thing that I messed up when I was in 6th grade is I didn't know if if it's 3x, I didn't know if x was like if it was like, let's say it was 5, would it be 35 or would it be like I don't know.
Great introduction to today's lesson, and I will hopefully answer that in the next 2 minutes. So an expression is a math problem that looks like this. Underline 3x minus 14. Thanks for board of paper, row 4. Excellent. Make sure you point to it and put expression. There's your first example. An expression is just a math problem, and it's a combination of variables. It's a combination of constants, which is a fancy term for just a number, and signs like plus, minus, add, subtract. Plus, minus, divide, multiply.
Plus, minus,
add, subtract. I said the same thing twice. I know, you got it. I'm a hilarious guy. Yeah, that's English. So write 3x minus 14 again out here, and we're going to label some things. If you have a number that's a variable next to it, this is your variable. 3x, write variable. If you have a number without a letter next to it, that's your constant. Say constant on 2. 1, 2.
Constant.
Constant's just a number. So let's look at what they have us doing. Example 1 says evaluate 3x minus 14 when x equals 5. Disclaimer before we go any further, Hendrix, AK. It's going to feel for the next like 2 or 3 lessons like, what in the world? This is so like not like what I did yesterday. I did not find x or y. I didn't like substitute a number. I thought we were doing fractions to decimals. Why are we switching gears? Like Mr. McD, I was just getting confident on that. I kind of want to stay in that realm. The reason I intro it with fraction and decimal is because we will eventually have a problem. Well, you'll have a whole bunch of fractions and a whole bunch of decimals thrown in here. I'm starting here at like a lower level. Eventually, you will need to go grab all those skills you learned the last 2 days to solve something like this. So it's not disjointed quite as much as it seems. It will come back and all relate to each other. So, first example, it says evaluate. Evaluate is the same thing as simplify. You might see that word too. Evaluate 3x minus 14 when x equals 5. You have an expression to the left. Then they give you a clue to the expression. They say that x is equal to some number. X is equal to 5 is what they're telling you. Here's why that's helpful. when you put 3 next to an x, it really means 3 times x. If they're saying x is 5, you can place the 5 wherever the x was. Board of paper, put 3 parentheses 5. Why did I put the 5 next to the 3, Hendrix? Why did I place the 5 there?
Because
That's what x is. Keep writing the rest of the expression. It's minus 14. Once you replace the variable with the number they give you, you can solve. 3 next to a 5 in parentheses is what operation, Taylor? 3 next to parentheses is what operation? Multiply. 3 times 5 whole class.
What? 15.
Keep writing it down. Notice how I stacked the 15 underneath. And 15 minus 14 is Josiah. What was your answer? Yeah.
Sorry.
So this entire thing, when x is 5, equals 1. Go to B. Z squared plus 8.5 when z equals 2. Solve or evaluate. Z is equal to 2. I'm going to put 2 wherever I see a z. Put it in parentheses. Don't leave it by itself. Add 8.5. Now that you replaced the z, let's solve. Pyramid of GEMDAS says to group first. There's no grouping. Then it says to do exponents. Baron, how do I write 2 squared simplified? And that's 4. Bring down the 8.5. Last step, what do I do, Jeffrey? Okay, what is 8.5 plus 4, Jeffrey? Okay, you got it.
Not that hard.
It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is.
Now this I'm
It's getting a little bit more complicated here. What is the difference between C, A, and B? I'll take a hand, Josiah. Thanks for your enthusiasm. What's the difference between C and A and B? Tatum. I'm going to push your thinking. What do we, or your vocab? What are the letters called? It's a variable. So there's more than one variable. If that's the case, solve it exactly the same. Just make sure you choose the right number. -6 replaces y. And 5 replaces z. Yep. There's 3 numbers that are added or subtracted together. Bring down your +2. John talking 1. Next up, Ali, what do I do? Why did I start with that and not do 5 plus 2? Yeah, work left to right. Start with the 1 over here. What's -6 plus 5, Ali? Let's look at this guy as good guys versus bad guys again. There's a bad guy that's a 6, a good guy that's a 5. They fight. They're actually going to get smaller, and the bad guys win. How many left over? Take away 5 from 6. How many are left? There's 1 left over. You got it. Is that a bad guy or a good guy, Taylor? Who wins the battle of 6 versus 5? Okay. Rewrite the +2. Evelyn, what's -1 plus 2? Positive or negative? 2 wins because he's positive. Last step, or last example. You have p, parentheses, q divided by 3 minus p. Start out this problem. How? Evelyn, keep going with this problem. What do I use to replace p? Okay, so outside of parentheses, I'm placing -6 there. Inside parentheses, Preston, what replaces q? Make sure it's negative. Okay, put the -3 where q was. And write the net divided by 3 here. What replaces the p here, Sam? What replaces the p right here? Minus a Negative 6. Be really careful. Watch what I do. I'm putting minus, and then in parentheses, it is a negative 6. Why did I put two negatives there, Hendrix?
Because one of them is subtraction and
Beautiful. Be extremely careful that you set these up correctly. This is the hardest problem that you'll see today unless you get to gold. Before I start, let's simplify inside of here. It's a not, so make a giant plus. Rewrite it so it's all one sign. Negative 3 divided by 3 plus 6. Head to your great pyramid of GEMDAS. Baron, what would I do first?
So your thing would be 3 divided 3, that'd be 1 plus 6 is 7.
Is it negative 1 or positive 1?
Oh, negative.
Why is it negative? Same, good, different?